5, and I'm going to give these to you ahead of time.
Okay. One suggestion.
Don't
You shouldn't
hand
get 'em, because while you're talking,
We're gonna
everybody's
use
gonna
'em.
be going.
Well, we have to
Okay.
use them, so.
That's exactly what I just did.
I know, you just start
So what are
going.
we doing?
Okay, go for it.
All right, so how many of you have taken a course or a training that you really liked? That you were motivated or it inspired you, and that everything that was being shared, you wanted to implement right away?
Mhm.
All right, well, let's look at the opposite experience. Have either of you taken a course that you couldn't stand? That you thought, oh my gosh, I am dumber because I went to this? So I think that many of us have experienced both of those. So can you share with me a few things that you liked about a course that was inspiring?
The courses I like that are inspiring are working on what I already know, and I learn a little bit more. To go into a class where I'm learning fresh gives me a headache. But the most important thing is that I can apply it.
So something you are expanding your knowledge, and something where you can apply it
Mhm.
once you've learned it. What about you?
Agreed. I agree with the ability to apply. I transferred from doing pre-nursing to going to this, and then as I discussed with you before class, now I'm going to pair the two. So I'm going to have both, and I have a broader resume, but I prefer the hands-on approach. Yeah, I prefer the hands-on approach just for the fact that it is something you can apply. It is something you can use, and last term I had, it was like leadership development, I think, with Linda.
Mhm.
Linda.
Robin Lindbeck.
Yeah, Robin Lindbeck. And I had that course with her, and the thing was, is being in a leadership role as well as a training role, it was stuff I could apply every single day I would go into work. I could actually take those things and take them straight to work. And it was a fun read, even though most textbooks you get like, oh,
I know.
I don't want to read this stupid thing.
But
it
you
was
were
actually,
learning and being able to apply it.
Mhm.
when I can directly apply it, it's a lot more interesting for me to learn. When it's something that I can't even apply or can't even like come up with a way to apply it, it's really difficult. It's just kind of great. I'm going to learn this now and forget it 10 years down the road when I could maybe eventually apply.
Yeah, like for me, my degree is in technical writing. And so I'm sitting in the literature classes going, what the heck?
Right.
Why do
What
I have
does
to
this have
take
to
this?
do
It
with-
has nothing to do with what I'm going to do.
And so that kind of leads us into the courses that we don't like, that were not inspiring, that we were wondering why we're even here. And we kind of discussed some of those things, what we like and what we don't like. I have a list here. I gave you guys a copy of the adult learning theories. And we'll get you a copy of that,
Yeah.
Brad. So there are different reasons why we either enjoy or are disappointed by our training courses. However, a lot of it has to do with how we learn as adults. So let's go over this learning theory handout. And if I can just have you read a few, and then
That's fine.
move on to the next
Um,
person.
I'll just go down the list. Adults bring prior experience and knowledge with them. Validate where people are. Create allies, not pupils. Adults want to know what's in it for them. Adults enjoy speaking to one another, not just listening to the sound of your voice. Adults have preferences and prejudices that may not be overcome in a one-shot training. Adults like to assist you and feel like an active part of the learning process. Adults expect to be respected. You want me? I can just finish it.
That's all fine.
I don't care.
Go ahead.
Adults enjoy active learning, which we just talked about, small group exercises, and moving around the room. Varied training activities. Expect to be able to use what they learn immediately, which we talked about.
Which we just
Make
talked about.
information applicable, learn at different speeds and through different methods. Be flexible. Need feedback and constructive criticism. The emphasis is on building the person, not tearing them down. The adults like to laugh. Is this
And then if we
continuing?
can, we'll go ahead and move on. And
Okay.
if you would like to start reading, you know, if we were in a bigger group, I would
Right.
have everybody in the group go, so I made these as if
Okay.
I was going to present to a large group, just in case.
Yep. Okay, so adults learn best when they are in a supportive, safe environment.
We talked about that today.
Learners are allowed to define their own needs, see personal growth opportunities in the training. Material presented is relevant to perceived needs. Participate actively in cooperative and individual exercises. Educator respects the life experience of the learner. Material can be immediately related to learner's life experience. Direction of learning made explicit at the outset. Instruction for learning activities are clear. Experience a variety of training methods and media. Adults learn best when they are empowered with learning skills, when they receive timely feedback on practice activities. Learners receive positive reinforcement for accomplishments, have their individual needs met, are taught course content that is relevant and integrated patterns. Learners feel free to question and challenge, and learners' self-esteem and ego are respected.
And so most of the things on this list we've covered either in the previous chapter that we discussed, in chapter 3, and also in chapter 5. As adults, we relate to a lot of the statements. You know, as we were going through them, those were things that just came up in discussion without even knowing anything about learning principles or learning theories. So now we have some understanding about how adults learn. What does this mean for us as trainers and instructors? It means that we need to meet the needs of the people that we're teaching. And their success in learning is our success. If they're not successful at learning, then we're not being successful as trainers. So this leads us into the adult principles, the adult learning principles. And as we go through this information, you're going to learn 4 key adult learning principles. And the book explains these key principles that are also listed on our handout on the last page as readiness, experience, autonomy, and action. Readiness. So when you think of readiness, I'd like you to think of the Buddhist proverb, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, because it's packed with wisdom. No matter how hard a teacher tries, if the student isn't ready, they're not going to learn. The chances are that they won't, because if they're not ready, if they're not open in their mind and in their spirit, that's something that the book said, that they need to be open-minded and open in their spirit in order for any information to penetrate into any part of their being. So luckily, most of our students in adult learning are there because they want to be. Occasionally we'll have some that aren't. When we come across people that are not ready to learn, they haven't bought into it all yet. Maybe they're sent here because their work said to. Maybe it's a mandatory training and they have no interest in it. The book explains to us that in order to open their minds and their spirit, we need to show them how they can solve a problem and something that directly relates to them, something that provides them an opportunity to increase maybe their status, get a promotion, any kind of professional or personal growth. If it has to do with something about themselves that they can see attributes to something being better, something that they can gain from it, then they'll be more apt to being open to learning. And so training must clearly address learners' needs so that they're open-minded and open-spirited. Showing them what's in it for them, and we kind of address that. You brought that up, if it's going to help me, and then it was also on our list of theories too. The second one is experience. So according to Albert Einstein, experience, the only source of knowledge is experience. So experience can take many forms. An activity that gets your students involved makes it a learning experience. So what are some activities that we can use in our trainings, like in general?
Icebreakers are really good.
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind was that one at the beginning of class. We've done that at several leadership training seminars that we've done for our company too. That's one of the first things we do is start with an icebreaker and then throughout we do activities to reinforce, whether it's writing in some kind of, I don't know, quiz or doing some kind of analytical worksheet that gives us some kind of result. For one, ours was the DISC assessment. Have you ever heard of that?
Mhm.
Okay, so we did that on one of our recent trainings, but it's just to keep us from falling asleep just sitting and watching.
Mhm.
It keeps us active, but
So the book, it actually lists a bunch of different types of activities that we can do. Some of those include group discussions, experiments, role-playing, skits, team building exercises, building something, like actually hands-on, writing or drawing something that's specific. I know that we're going to get into that later on in chapter 8 of the different types of activities that are listed in the book. But activities also keep people energized, and especially activities that involve getting up and moving around. You know, how many times have you sat there and your eyes start going and then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be paying attention.
Yeah.
So another aspect of this principle is honoring the life experiences of each of your learners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bringing to the classroom their uniqueness. Be sure to tap into the wealth of wisdom that you have right at your fingertips, because I don't know everything, and being a trainer thinking that you know everything is really a detriment to student learning. So tap into that wisdom whenever it's appropriate. The only thing is you're going to have to be a gatekeeper on time, because people love to talk
Oh,
about
yes.
themselves and their personal experiences. And we've kind of tapped into the personal stuff a little bit here. So the book reminds us to check backgrounds of our learners, and that can kind of help us to gauge whether we're aiming too high or too low, and try and meet them where they are. Use familiar language. You know, don't use acronyms that they don't know. Watch your language styles. You know, watch how you're presenting and what your style and interaction is with them. Draw examples and experiences from the group to help enrich the learning experience, and to build bridges from what you're teaching them to actual real life things. So training must respect and build the life experiences that learners bring to each session. The third one is autonomy. This reminds me of the quote that says, "Let yourself be yourself." Learners don't want to be taught at. They want to learn, or adult learners learn best if they can take charge of their learning.
Mhm.
They don't want someone just to reiterate information that they have to regurgitate back to them. They like to actively participate in their learning. The more a learner does, the more that they learn. So what are some things that we can do to foster autonomy?
Ask them about, what do you think about this? What would you do in this situation? What have you done in this situation?
we're in some classes like I said, I was pre-nursing, so a lot of biology, anatomy, physiology, things like that, where you would get into a system, ask them what they already know about the system, get them to think about, okay, like let's say the endocrine system, what do you already know about this? Then it also gets you on a level playing field, so you know where your lowest part is, your
Mhm.
lowest player is in the group, and you can bring them up to an even playing field. But
Right.
I think just engaging them in general, it's really hard, and obviously, it's extremely hard in large lecture courses, but
And so that's one of the things that the book really stresses is, you know, to gather all the information you can from your learners so that it can help you as a trainer, so that you're not talking over their heads. So create opportunities for your learners to participate in your training sessions. You want to build exercises, create hands-on, use cases, simulations, games, and open it up for discussion. Have an open communication. Even if you're in a large group, you can learn so much from the people around. Reinforce the independence and innovative ideas, and reward people when they share their ideas. You know, that was a great example. This is how it applies. Encourage your learners to adapt to the learning in ways that enhance their own personal potential. You want to make sure that they find the value in what they're sharing and what you're teaching. Create opportunities that contribute to suggestions and solutions, information and examples. The more that people are able to contribute, the more they feel that it's their own learning, and they're more committed to making use of that information. Training must invite learners to participate in shaping and direction content, activities of the learning experience. So this brings us to the fourth principle, and that's action. You've heard it said before, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Mm-hmm.
So we hear things, we read things, and we attend events that we really enjoy. When we are in learning mode, we are motivated and inspired to use what we're learning. But if we're not motivated and we're not inspired, we're rarely going to use it,
Yeah,
right?
who cares?
Who cares?
Mhm.
So a learner's attention needs to be focused on how they can put what they're learning into action as soon as possible, not sometime down the road. The book says that we need to point out to learners how they can apply their learning immediately. Provide them with on-the-job support mechanisms. So the reason I gave you guys this handout is so as you're training, you might be able to go back and look at it. There's a worksheet here that has all 4 of the principles listed. Provide opportunities within the training session to practice what they're learning. Practice the new, if you're learning how to create something, if you're learning how to build something, or if you're learning about training. We kind of went through and talked about those things. Let's see. So practice will increase their competence and their confidence. Both are highly correlated with the motivation to transfer this learning onto their job site. To ensure that new learning can be applied on the job, we need to work with whatever environment it is that they're going to go to. If you're training people on your job, it has to be able to be applied once they leave this training session and they go out on the floor. It has to be able to be applied out there. I know that I've been to a lot of trainings where they gave us great information, but they'd never been to where I worked. They had no idea how it was going to work in that situation. And some of it was like, there's no way for us to make it work. And there might have been, but I wasn't taught that. So it was hard for me to implement it once I went back to my job site.
Ours, the way it's set up is roughly a quarter of it's maybe spent reading SOP and knowing OSHA, EMA, CLIA, all those different governing bodies. But my training begins when they're in the area. And then we do send them off to read SOPs we broke it down into specific, we call them modules. So there's 4 modules for a phlebotomist at our center. And each one has its own SOP, and they go through, and then we do a lot of hands-on. They watch me, I work them into it, then we have them do it directly under supervision, and then pass them on to do it on their own once they're confident. So,
And so in a training setting like that, it's kind of like our PTE people, where they do the training part, and then they actually physically get to do it. If you're actually just an instructor teaching, like if I'm going into business and I'm just teaching people what they're going to do when they get to all these different work sites, I have to be able to give them tools that they can use and apply in the real workplace. I mean, you're lucky that the people that you're training, actually get to use the tools that you're giving them. Let's see. So we have to make a connection between training and applying what's learned, and that has to be very clear. So as a recap, the 4 key learning principles are, can you list the first 2?
No.
Okay.
I came up with an acronym for it.
So I was just
I
going to
should've.
say
I really
that's
should've.
what I did.
Mhm.
Because when you just say that, you're like, I don't know. So that's what I did, is I came up with an acronym. So what did you?
Mine is area.
Area. And I just did REAA. I just put REAA
Well, now
with the little dots.
I got it.
Yeah.
And I didn't think of a name or anything like that. But that's usually what I do, is try when I'm learning certain things that have 3 or 4, maybe 5. I try and put an acronym. That's how I study as well. And so then I can look at that and go, okay, what's that R stand for? And so we have readiness,
Experience, autonomy, and action.
right? And so when you think of the acronym, it's much easier than trying to go back and retain everything that we talked about. So for our activity, I was going to make it a group thing, but so as a group, I want you to draw a picture, create a poem or a song to help you remember the 4 principles. So it's up to you what you do. whether it's a picture, a poem, or a song. And then we'll share it with our group. And have markers if you want to use them.
I just remember it now as the acronym, so that's the point of drawing.
Maybe I should put that at the end the next time.
You know, you give them, you come in, you give them a chapter to read, you give them the worksheet, fill that out, and then, here, I'm done teaching.
And you know, when we're talking about experiences, prior knowledge, I started working in computers in about 1989, and I programmed them, I built them, everything. And so when I happen to call technical support for something, and I know it's because I'm female and I'm older, they talk down. And I stopped one kid one day and I said, you know what? I was building computers before you were even born. So bypass all that, just tell me what the problem is. And he just went, And then another time I called and he told me to do something. I said, okay, I've done this, 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 and this. And he says, okay, tell me what you know about computers so we know where to start. And I thought, now that's how it should be.
Mm-hmm. Having, you know, opening that up and having that knowledge of what everybody's background is makes a world of difference.
We saved 15 minutes in that conversation because he wasn't trying to explain something to me that I knew before he was born.
Right.
So.
You know, I've gotten lucky. I have courses that I've taken recently where they were online and the teacher said, give me an idea of where you're at.
Yeah.
You know, what you're doing, what your background is, what you hope to learn, what you already know. You know, I don't want to tell you how to turn on a computer if you know how to program a computer,
Yeah.
right? And I went to a course, and my work sent me there. They paid for it. We got there. I was super, super excited, and it had to do with, you know, it was organizational skills, and I really thought it was what I'm getting now.
Mm-hmm.
However, it was really how to organize your files and create a folder.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, oh my gosh, my 3-year-old knows how to do that.
Yeah.
You know, they know how to maneuver through an iPad, and they know how,
Mhm.
you know, and I was just, I was dumbfounded, you know, and I did not listen in that class. The instructor, you know, and it was hard because I kept going, well, what about this? He's like, oh yeah, you could do that too. I'm like, hey, do you know how to do this? So I was like adding advanced
Yeah.
stuff in there, but I felt, oh, well, now I'm dominating the class because I'm asking all these questions that are above and beyond, and they don't even, I mean, the lady next to me couldn't turn on a computer.
Yeah.
So if it would have been nice if he would have said, okay, where are we?
Yeah.
But it was just like he started at the very basics, and I thought, if I have to sit through one more minute of
Yeah.
this,
I would have screamed.
you know. And I also took another course at a workplace training, and I was like, I'd never taken any there,
Mhm.
and so they start you at the basics, and I said, I really don't need this. And she says, what do you mean? I said, I could teach this class.
Mhm.
And she's like, what? And I said, not that I've ever taught before, but
Yeah.
you know, I could show you.
And I know enough about it that.
And the lady sat in the back of the classroom and she read through this book and said, click this, do this, click, and I thought, oh. So, you want to hire me? No.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Stuck up here
fine.
now.
Okay, what are they?
Readiness, experience, autonomy, and action.
Yep. All right, so just, so what we can kind of see, we don't need to do like a share, but can you share what you wrote?
Mine is always be ready to explain your actions. AREA, area.
Nice.
Hmm.
So, what does your first always stand for?
Autonomy. I went blank. Experience, autonomy, and
Readiness.
Yeah.
And action.
And action. All right. Well, I hope that you will meet the needs of your learners and practice all of these principles in all of your courses. And that's all I have.
I don't want to be
Yay!
ruined and die, 'cause that's where mine are.